The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystalline metal that reflected the light of 1,000 distant suns. Inside, representatives from 47 species gathered in their designated atmospheric zones, separated by shimmering energy fields that maintained their individual environmental needs. Ambassador Thexus of the Corvan Empire raised 3 of his 4 arms, calling for attention. His crimson scales caught the ambient light as he addressed the assembly. Honored members, we gather to discuss the human problem. A wave of chittering, humming, and electromagnetic pulses rippled through the chamber. The humans, always the humans. They have gone silent, Thexus continued. 4-3 standard cycles, not a single transmission has left their home system. Their colony worlds report the same. Complete communication blackout. Diplomat Valera of the Synthesis Collective, her translucent form pulsing with bioluminescence, spoke next. Perhaps they finally recognized their insignificance. Humanity has always been a curiosity, nothing more. A young species playing at galactic politics. The council chamber erupted in agreement. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 70 years prior, after achieving faster-than-light travel through crude and inefficient means. They had established colonies on 12 worlds, all within their local cluster. They participated in minor trade. They attended council sessions but rarely spoke. They were, by all accounts, unremarkable. We should investigate, suggested Councillor Zyfex, his gelatinous body undulating with concern. A complete communications blackout is unprecedented. Thexus waved dismissively. The humans are probably experiencing technical difficulties. Their technology is primitive at best. We have more pressing matters. The Vren-Korthan border dispute requires our immediate attention. The Council moved on, relegating humanity to a footnote in their vast bureaucracy. 10,000 light-years away, in a forgotten monitoring station on the edge of Vren space, Senior Observer Callus stared at his screens with growing unease. He was a Vren, his insectoid features twitching as he processed the data before him. The humans had not just gone silent. They had vanished. Every listening post pointed at human space detected nothing. No engine signatures. No quantum communications. No thermal signatures from their colonies. It was as if an entire civilization had simply ceased to exist. But that wasn't what troubled Callus most. What troubled him were the gravitational anomalies. Massive distortions in spacetime, appearing and disappearing throughout human territory. Patterns that suggested artificial generation. Patterns that suggested something far beyond the technological capability humanity had displayed. Callus sent his report through official channels. It would take weeks to reach the council. He attached a priority flag, though he doubted anyone would notice. He was wrong to doubt but right to worry. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, on a moon of Jupiter called Europa, humanity was very much alive. Beneath the ice, in caverns carved by fusion torches, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Phase 1 is complete, she said, her voice echoing in the command center. Around her, thousands of personnel worked at their stations, their faces illuminated by blue light. All colonies have entered communications blackout. All external signatures have been masked. To the galaxy we are ghosts. General Marcus Cole stepped beside her, his weathered face grave. The council thinks we're primitives playing dress-up. They have no idea what we've been building out here. Sarah nodded. 70 years. 70 years of being underestimated, patronized, and dismissed. They thought our technology was crude because we let them think that. They thought our ships were slow because we showed them our slowest models. They thought we were content with 12 colonies because they never looked deeper. How many do we actually have? Asked Colonel Yuki Tanaka, approaching from the tactical station. 473, Sarah replied. Fully operational. Another 200 in construction. All hidden. All waiting. Marcus pulled up a star chart. Red dots appeared throughout the galaxy, each one representing a hidden human presence. Supply depots. Listening stations. Weapons platforms. Entire fleets positioned in the dark spaces between stars, running silent, invisible to conventional scans. The Corvan Empire has been building its fleet, Marcus said. Intelligence suggests they plan to annex the border territories. That includes 3 of our acknowledged colonies. Let them try, Sarah said coldly. The galaxy is about to learn what humanity truly is. Not a curiosity. Not a minor species playing at politics. But something they should have feared from the moment we arrived. She touched a control and the hologram shifted. Ships appeared, thousands of them, designs that would make the Council's best engineers weep with envy, weapons that bent the laws of physics, drives that made their fastest vessels look stationary. Humanity didn't go silent, Sarah said softly. Humanity went hunting. And the prey has no idea the predator is already among them. In the darkness between stars, humanity's true fleet stirred, and the galaxy would never be the same. War Marshal Drexen of the Corvan Empire stood on the bridge of the Crimson Sovereignty, his flagship and the pride of the Corvan fleet. Around him, 300 warships moved in perfect formation, a display of military might that had conquered 17 systems over the past century. Approaching human colony world designated Terra Nova, his tactical officer reported. No defensive fleet detected. Orbital stations appear abandoned. Drexen's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The humans had fled. As expected from such a weak species. Terra Nova was an agricultural world, population 3 million, completely defenseless according to all intelligence reports. Begin orbital insertion, Drexen commanded. We claim this world for the Corvan Empire. The fleet descended, gravity drives humming as they broke through the atmosphere. Terra Nova spread below them, green continents and blue oceans, cities dotting the surface like scattered gems. Everything appeared normal. Too normal. Marshal, his sensor officer called out, uncertainty in his voice. I'm detecting anomalies. What kind of anomalies? The cities are empty. No life signs. But the power grids are active. All infrastructure is functioning. It's like everyone simply vanished. Drexen felt the first stirring of unease. Scan the entire planet. Find me those colonists. The answer came not from his sensors but from the darkness of space itself. A voice, human and female, broadcast across all frequencies. Corvan Fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Chin of the Terran Defense Coalition. You are in violation of Galactic Treaty 7, Section 3. You have entered sovereign human territory with hostile intent. You have one opportunity to withdraw. Drexen laughed, a harsh grating sound. Terran Defense Coalition? We destroyed your pathetic defense fleet in the outer system. Your colony is defenseless. Surrender now, and your people will be treated mercifully. You destroyed decoys, Marshal Drexen. Unmanned drones broadcasting false signatures. Did you really think we would leave 3 million civilians undefended? You're bluffing, Drexen snarled. Humans have no military capability. Your entire species has 40 vessels, all of them mining and cargo ships barely modified for defense. We let you believe that, Sarah's voice remained calm, almost amused. We've had 70 years to prepare for species like yours. 70 years of being dismissed and underestimated. Tell me, Marshal, did you ever wonder why humans were so eager to purchase your old sensor technology? Why we seemed so interested in your outdated military specifications? Drexen's blood ran cold. Tactical, full sensor sweep, maximum range, all spectrums. The sensor officer's hands trembled over his controls. Marshal, contact. Multiple contacts. 30, no 300, contacts all around us. His voice rose to a panicked shriek. 5,000 contacts. They're everywhere. The view screen erupted with targeting solutions. Ships appeared from nowhere, emerging from stealth fields so advanced that Corvan sensors couldn't even classify them. They weren't just around the Corvan fleet. They were woven through it, positioned between vessels, above, below, inside their defensive formations. The human ships were like nothing in the galactic database. Sleek, angular, built with a predatory elegance that spoke of violence and speed. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, making them appear as holes in space itself. Impossible, Drexen whispered. Where did you get this technology? We made it, Sarah replied. While you were conquering primitive worlds and stealing their resources, humanity was innovating. While you relied on technology purchased from the Synthesis Collective, we were advancing. Did you know that humans have only one natural predator? Ourselves. We've spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war against our own species. And now we've turned that expertise outward. Open fire. Drexen roared. Destroy them all. The Corvan fleet unleashed everything. Plasma cannons, mass drivers, missile pods, beam weapons. The space around Terra Nova lit up like a newborn star. Not a single shot hit its target. The human ships moved like nothing Drexen had ever seen. They didn't dodge. They predicted. Every shot fired at them missed by centimeters, as if the humans knew exactly where each weapon would be aimed before the trigger was pulled. Their movements were impossible, breaking every rule of inertia and momentum. Return fire, Sarah said calmly. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for generations. The human ships didn't unleash a barrage. They fired precisely, each shot calculated to devastating effect. Corvin shields, considered the best in the galaxy, collapsed like tissue paper. Hulls that could withstand direct nuclear strikes were punctured by weapons that seemed to ignore armor entirely. In 47 seconds, 300 Corvin warships became 300 pieces of floating debris. The Crimson sovereignty alone remained intact, though completely disabled. Drexen found himself staring at Sarah Chen's face on his view screen. She was younger than he expected, her dark eyes hard as steel. "Return to the Council," she said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them humanity is done being underestimated. Tell them the galaxy has new apex predators, and we're tired of pretending otherwise." Drexen's ship limped away, carrying news that would shatter the galactic order. Behind him, 5,000 human warships vanished back into darkness, leaving Terra Nova pristine and untouched, as if nothing had happened at all. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives screamed, chittered, and pulsed with electromagnetic fury as War Marshal Drexen finished his report. His scarred face filled the massive central display, broadcast from a medical station where doctors worked to repair his psychological trauma as much as his physical wounds. 300 ships, Ambassador Thexus repeated, his voice hollow. "Your entire fourth battle fleet. Gone in under a minute." 47 seconds, Drexen corrected, his voice breaking. "They didn't just defeat us. They dismantled us. Like children taking apart toys. Our shields might as well have been made of paper. Our weapons couldn't even target them. They moved like they could see the future." Counselor Zyfex's gelatinous form turned a sickly gray color. "This cannot be accurate. Human technology is at least a century behind our own. They achieved FTL barely 70 years ago. With technology they demonstrated to us," Valera of the Synthesis Collective interjected, her bioluminescence flickering with fear. "Oh gods, they showed us exactly what they wanted us to see. We thought we understood their capabilities because they let us think we did." A new voice entered the chamber, transmitted from the observation station on the edge of Vren space. Senior Observer Callus appeared on a secondary screen, his insectoid features grave. "Honored Council, I have been monitoring human space for 3 cycles. With enhanced sensors. What I discovered..." He paused, mandibles clicking nervously. "The humans have been building. Not for years. For decades. Since the moment they joined the galactic community." Callus brought up holographic displays that filled the chamber. Star charts covered in red markers, each one representing a hidden human installation. Shipyards and asteroid belts. Weapons platforms disguised as mining operations. Entire colonies hidden in places deemed uninhabitable by galactic standards. "How many?" Thexus demanded. "We count 473 confirmed colonies. Unknown number of military installations. Fleet estimates range from 8,000 to 15,000 combat vessels, all of advanced design beyond our current classification systems." The chamber fell silent. 15,000 warships. The entire Galactic Council's combined military forces numbered approximately 12,000 vessels. And those were spread across 47 member species, often in conflict with each other. "This is an invasion force," growled Ambassador Kron of the Balthor Confederacy, his massive frame bristling with barely contained aggression. "They have been preparing to conquer the galaxy from the beginning." "Or defend themselves," said a small voice. Everyone turned to look at Diplomat Syria of the Paxan Union, a diminutive species known for their philosophical nature. She floated in her containment sphere, her crystalline body refracting light into rainbows. "Consider," Syria continued, "humanity discovered faster-than-light travel and immediately encountered the Galactic Council. A collection of ancient species with overwhelming technological and military superiority. Species that had colonized thousands of worlds while humans were still confined to one system. What would you do in their position? Join the community peacefully as they claimed to," Thexus snapped. "And they did. But they also prepared. Because from their perspective, they had entered a galaxy full of potential threats. Species like the Corvins, who have a documented history of conquering less advanced civilizations. Species like us, who might view their resources, their worlds, their very existence as commodities to be exploited." Valera's form pulsed with anger. "You defend them? They lied to us for 70 years. "They protected themselves," Syria replied calmly. "And they never broke a single galactic law. They attended all required council sessions. They participated in trade agreements. They paid their membership dues. They simply didn't tell us everything about their capabilities. Is that a crime? It's a threat, Ambassador Kron rumbled. A threat that must be neutralized. Before anyone could respond, every display in the council chamber changed. The face of Admiral Sarah Chin appeared, her expression neutral but her eyes carrying a weight that made even the eldest council members uncomfortable. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, I am Admiral Sarah Chin, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Coalition. I apologize for interrupting your session, but I felt it necessary to address certain misconceptions. How did you penetrate our secure systems? Thexus demanded. Sarah smiled slightly. The same way we've been monitoring your communications for the past 70 years. The same way we've had observers in every council session, listening to every debate about the human problem. The same way we know about the 17 times various members have discussed annexing our territories, dividing our resources, or outright eliminating our species as a potential future threat. The council members exchanged horrified glances. Yes, Sarah continued, we've been listening, learning, preparing. And now War Marshal Drexen has forced our hand. We can no longer maintain the fiction that humanity is weak, primitive, and unimportant. What do you want? Valera asked, her luminescence dimming with fear. Sarah's expression hardened. Respect, recognition, and a guarantee that no species will ever attempt what the Corvins tried again. Humanity is not your prey. We are not your subjects. We are your equals whether you acknowledge it or not. And if we refuse? Kron growled. Then we'll demonstrate exactly why that would be a mistake. The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its third day. Member species who had barely spoken to each other in centuries were now united by a single cause, the human question. Fear, it seemed, was an excellent unifier. On the bridge of the Avalon, humanity's flagship hidden in the Kuiper Belt beyond Neptune's orbit, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the proceedings with General Marcus Cole at her side. The council chambers were in an uproar. They're discussing military action, Marcus observed, reading the translated transcript scrolling across his display. Ambassador Kron is calling for a preemptive strike. He's getting support from the Corvin Empire and at least 12 other species. Sarah nodded slowly. Predictable. Threatened animals either flee or attack. The council species have never faced a genuine peer competitor. They've been the dominant powers for so long, they've forgotten what it means to face an equal. Are we equals? Asked Colonel Tanaka, manning the tactical station. Or are we superior? It was the question no one had dared voice aloud until now. Sarah turned to face her senior staff. 15 of humanity's finest military minds, gathered in this moment of decision. I've been thinking about that question for 20 years. Since I was a lieutenant on the first deep space reconnaissance mission. We found a Corvin mining operation strip mining a world that once had a primitive civilization. The Corvins had declared them pre-sentient and claimed the planet. The indigenous species died during the extraction process. Casualties of progress, the Corvins called it. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. The galaxy operates on a simple principle, Sarah continued. Might makes right. The strong do what they will. The weak suffer what they must. Every council species has built their power on the exploitation of lesser civilizations. They see nothing wrong with it because they've been doing it for millennia. And we're different? Marcus asked quietly. We're worse, Sarah said and saw shock ripple through her staff. Don't misunderstand me. Humanity has been just as brutal throughout our history. We've conquered, enslaved, and destroyed each other countless times. But we learned something the galactic species never did. We learned to be better than our nature. She pulled up images on the main screen. Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Luna with its sprawling colonies. Mars being slowly terraformed. Europa where they now stood. Callisto. Titan. Humanity's solar system, transformed from a collection of lifeless rocks into a thriving civilization. We didn't need to conquer other species to expand, Sarah said. We learned to adapt to hostile environments. We learned to build instead of take. When we finally achieved FTL and found the galaxy already claimed, we had a choice. Join them in their exploitation or forge our own path. So we chose to hide our strength, Tanaka said. We chose to survive, Sarah corrected. And to buy time. Time to build. Time to grow. Time to ensure that when the inevitable conflict came, we would be ready. Marcus studied the council proceedings. They're voting. Kron's proposal for military action against humanity. It's going to pass. Sarah watched the vote tally. 23 species in favor. 19 against. 5 abstaining. The Council had declared humanity a threat to galactic peace. A joint military response was authorized. How long until they mobilize? Sarah asked. 3 weeks, came the response from intelligence. Maybe 4. They need to coordinate forces from multiple species, agree on command structure, establish supply lines. The bureaucracy of it will slow them down. We don't have 3 weeks, Sarah said. The moment they start mobilizing, every species on the fence will choose sides. We'll face a united galaxy. Then what do we do? Marcus asked. Sarah's expression became steel. We show them why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because we're stronger, though we are. Not because we're smarter, though we might be. But because we understand something they've forgotten. She pulled up a tactical display of Council space. 47 member species spread across thousands of systems. A vast, ancient civilization that had ruled the galaxy for eons. War isn't about firepower, Sarah said softly. It's about will. It's about making your enemy understand that the cost of fighting you is greater than any possible gain. The Council species have grown soft. They've fought wars of conquest against primitives. They've never faced an enemy that could hurt them. Really hurt them. You're talking about total war, Marcus said carefully. I'm talking about survival, Sarah replied. The Council has declared us a threat. They will come for us with everything they have. So we strike first. Not to conquer. Not to destroy. But to teach them a lesson they will never forget. She touched a control, and across human space, thousands of ships received their orders. Launch Operation Checkmate, Sarah commanded. Target every Council military installation, every shipyard, every strategic asset. We don't kill civilians. We don't destroy colonies. But we cripple their ability to wage war. We do it simultaneously across the entire galaxy before they even finish mobilizing. That's impossible, someone whispered. Sarah smiled grimly. That's what they said about defeating the Corvin fleet. Let's show them impossible is just another word for human. The attack came at 0400 Galactic Standard Time, synchronized across 14,000 light-years. In the Corvin home system, War Marshal Drexen had just returned to duty, his psychological evaluation barely passing military standards. He stood in the command center of the Corvin High Fleet headquarters, a massive orbital station above their homeworld, when every alarm system activated simultaneously. Contact, his sensor officer screamed. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. On the view screen, 30 human warships materialized from nowhere, their dark hulls seeming to drink in the light of the Corvin sun. They didn't broadcast threats. They didn't demand surrender. They simply opened fire with surgical precision. The orbital shipyards exploded, their fusion reactors breached in perfect sequence. Supply depots scattered in a ring around the planet erupted like a chain of firecrackers. Defense platforms, considered impregnable, were reduced to debris in seconds. The High Fleet's 200 vessels docked for maintenance found their engines, weapons, and life support systems destroyed by weapons that passed through shields as if they weren't there. And then, as quickly as they appeared, the human ships vanished back into FTL, leaving behind a crippled military infrastructure and a completely untouched civilian population. The same scene played out across the galaxy. In Synthesis Collective Space, their organic shipyards, living vessels grown over decades, were bombarded with a bioweapon that sent them into hibernation. Not destroyed. Sleeping. Recoverable but useless for war. In Balthor Confederacy territory, Ambassador Kron watched in horror as every military station in their empire went dark simultaneously. No explosions. No deaths. The stations simply lost all power, their crews unharmed but stranded, waiting for rescue. The Vren found their quantum communication network completely disabled, their military coordination reduced to lightspeed transmissions that would take years to reach distant fleets. Across 47 species, the same message repeated: humanity could strike anywhere at any time with absolute precision. They could destroy your military capability while leaving your civilians untouched. They could cripple your empire without committing genocide. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session 6 hours later, their carefully crafted military response now impossible. How could they mobilize fleets that couldn't communicate? How could they build new ships when their shipyards were destroyed or disabled? How could they coordinate a response when humanity had demonstrated the ability to strike any target in the galaxy simultaneously? Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on every screen in the council chamber. "Honored members," she began, her voice calm but carrying an edge of steel. "In the past 6 hours, the Terran Defense Coalition has conducted Operation Checkmate. We have disabled the military infrastructure of every species that voted for military action against humanity. Our strikes were precise, calculated, and deliberately non-lethal to civilian populations. You attack us and call it mercy? Kron roared, his massive form trembling with rage. I call it a demonstration, Sarah replied coldly. You voted to destroy humanity because you feared our strength. So we showed you our strength. Not the full extent of it. Just enough to make our point. Which is? Ambassador Thexus asked, his voice hollow with defeat. That warfare in the galaxy has changed. Forever. The Council species have spent millennia fighting wars against primitives, against species who couldn't fight back effectively. You've forgotten what real war looks like. What happens when your enemy can strike back hard without warning, anywhere they choose. Valera's bioluminescence flickered weakly. You could have destroyed us completely. Yes, Sarah acknowledged. We could have. We chose not to. Because unlike some species in this council, humanity doesn't believe in genocide. We don't believe in conquest for its own sake. We don't believe in exploiting the weak simply because we can. She leaned forward, and every member of the council felt the weight of her gaze. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. We will defend our colonies. We will defend our right to exist in this galaxy as equals, not subjects. Any species that threatens humanity will face consequences. Not extermination. Not enslavement. But a response that will leave your military capability in ruins while your civilians live to rebuild. What do you want from us? Syria asked, her crystalline form refracting light into nervous patterns. A new treaty, Sarah said. One that recognizes humanity as a council member with full rights and privileges. One that prohibits military action against any member species without unanimous council approval. One that protects developing civilizations from exploitation. One that fundamentally changes how the galaxy operates. And if we refuse? Kron demanded. Sarah's expression didn't change. Then we'll withdraw from the council. We'll establish our own sphere of influence. We'll offer protection to any species tired of being exploited by the current system. And we'll let the galaxy choose whether they want to live under the old order or embrace a new one. You're threatening to split the galaxy, Thexus said quietly. I'm offering a choice, Sarah corrected. Evolution or extinction. The galaxy has operated under the same power structures for millennia. Those structures are failing. They've created a system where the strong prey on the weak, where primitive species are resources to be harvested, where might makes right. Humanity is offering an alternative. A system based on mutual defense, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. Marcus stepped forward beside her. We're not your enemies, Council. We're your wake-up call. The galaxy is vast. Unknown threats exist beyond our borders. The Corvin's historical records mention ancient species that vanished without explanation. The Synthesis Collective's archives contain warnings about things in the dark spaces between galaxies. You've been so focused on maintaining control of known space that you've stopped looking outward. And humanity has been looking, Sarah continued. For 70 years, while we let you think us primitive, we've been exploring the edges of galactic space. We've found things. Dangerous things. Things that make our little political disputes seem meaningless. She pulled up an image that made several council members recoil in fear. A massive structure, ancient and alien, drifting in the void between galaxies. It was impossibly huge, built by technology that dwarfed anything the council possessed. This is one of 17 structures we've discovered, Sarah said quietly. We don't know who built them. We don't know what they're for. But they're waking up. Whatever created these things might be coming back. When that happens, do you want to face them as a divided galaxy, weakened by internal conflicts? Or as a united civilization, prepared to defend our home? The council chamber fell silent, the weight of Sarah's words crushing down on ancient certainties. The Galactic Council remained in session for 11 consecutive days. It was the longest continuous session in recorded history, surpassing even the founding debates that had created the Council itself millennia ago. Sarah Chin had returned to Earth, but she watched every moment of the proceedings from the Terran Defense Coalition headquarters buried beneath the Rockies. Around her, humanity held its breath. They're terrified, Marcus said, reviewing the psychological profiles being compiled by intelligence analysts. Every speech, every debate comes back to the same question. Can they survive if they say no? Fear is a powerful motivator, Sarah replied. But it's not enough. We need them to understand that this treaty isn't about domination. It's about survival. On the main screen, Ambassador Thexus stood to address the council. His scales had dulled over the past 11 days, a physical manifestation of stress in Corvin physiology. Honored members, we have debated this proposal from every angle. The human treaty would fundamentally alter how our society functions. It would end the exploitation of primitive worlds. It would require unanimous consent for military actions. It would elevate humanity to equal status despite their recent arrival to galactic politics. Many of us find these terms difficult to accept. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. However, Thexus continued, his voice strengthening, we must also acknowledge certain facts. Humanity demonstrated the capability to cripple our combined military forces in a matter of hours. Their technology exceeds our own in ways we are still struggling to understand. Their ships move through space with an efficiency that defies our physics. Their weapons penetrate shields we thought impregnable. And most terrifyingly, they achieved all of this while we watched them, studied them, and believed them to be inferior. He paused, letting his words sink in. But what troubles me most is not their military might. It is their restraint. Humanity could have destroyed us. Instead, they disabled our military capability while carefully avoiding civilian casualties. They could have conquered our worlds. Instead, they offered a treaty. They could have demanded subjugation. Instead, they asked for equality. Ambassador Kron of the Balthor Confederacy rose to his full imposing height. You speak of their mercy as if it's virtue. I see calculation. They want us weakened, dependent on their protection against these supposed ancient threats. Then explain the data, Syria interjected, her crystalline form projecting holographic images of the structures humanity had discovered. I have spent the past 11 days analyzing the information humanity provided. These structures are real, ancient, and showing signs of activation. Whatever built them possessed technology that makes our own look like primitive tools. Convenient timing, Kron growled. They demonstrate their power, then show us a threat to justify their dominance. Or they've been preparing for a threat we were too arrogant to notice, countered diplomat Valera, her bioluminescence pulsing with agitation. I reviewed the historical records. 1,500 years ago, the Synthesis Collective detected anomalous energy signatures from deep space. We dismissed them as natural phenomena. 800 years ago, the Vren reported entire star systems going dark on the galactic rim. We assumed stellar collapse. Humanity arrives 70 years ago and immediately begins deep space reconnaissance beyond our borders. Why? Because they understood something we didn't. That our position of dominance made us complacent. That we stopped looking for threats because we became convinced we were the apex predators. We were the apex predators, Kron insisted. Were, Syria repeated softly. Past tense. The galaxy has changed, Kron. Humanity changed it. The question isn't whether we like it. The question is whether we adapt or die. The debate raged on for another day. Species aligned and realigned, forming voting blocks and breaking them just as quickly. The council teetered on the edge of collapse, with some species threatening to withdraw entirely. Finally, on the 12th day, the vote was called. In the command center on Earth, Sarah watched the tally appear on screen. Each species represented by a light, green for approval, red for rejection, yellow for abstention. The lights filled in agonizingly slowly. Green, red, green, green, red, yellow. It's going to be close, Marcus whispered. More lights appeared. The treaty required 2/3 approval. 31 votes out of 47. 29 green lights appeared. 28, 29, 30. The entire command center held its breath. 31. The chamber erupted in chaos, but the vote was final. The Treaty of Terra, as it would come to be known, had passed by the narrowest margin possible. Ambassador Thexus's voice cut through the noise. The measure passes. By the authority vested in this council, humanity is recognized as a full and equal member species. The treaty provisions will be implemented immediately. Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Around her, the command center exploded in celebration. Cheers, tears, embraces. 70 years of planning, of hiding, of preparing for this moment. But Sarah's eyes were drawn back to the screen showing the ancient structures drifting in deep space. The vote was won. The treaty was passed. Humanity had secured its place in the galactic order. The real challenge was still coming. Marcus appeared at her side, following her gaze. When do you think they'll arrive? The structures are accelerating, Sarah said quietly, pulling up the latest sensor data. Based on their current trajectory and speed, I estimate 60 years. Maybe less. Then we have time to prepare. We have time to prepare together, Sarah corrected, turning to face her staff. Humanity didn't fight for dominance. We fought for the chance to face what's coming as equals. Now we need to make sure the galaxy is ready. She looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that had underestimated them, feared them, and finally accepted them. The easy part is over, Sarah said softly. Now comes the hard part. Proving we were right to unite. Proving that humanity's way, cooperation instead of domination, can actually save us all. In the darkness between galaxies, the ancient structures continued their slow, inexorable approach toward home. 15 years after the Treaty of Terra, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Admiral Sarah Chin, now bearing the title of Supreme Commander of the United Galactic Defense Force, stood on the bridge of the Unity, a massive vessel built through the combined efforts of 23 species. Behind her, crew members from a dozen different worlds worked side by side. Humans, Corvins, Vren, even the massive Balthor-operated stations designed to accommodate their unique physiology. Status report, Sarah commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 15 years spent forging a unified military force from species that had once considered each other rivals. The ancient structures have crossed into our galaxy, reported Commander Zekthar, a Corvin who had once served under War Marshal Drexen. His scales were marked with honor scars from the Battle of Terra Nova, a reminder of the day his people learned humility. 17 distinct objects, each the size of a small moon. They're maintaining formation and accelerating toward the core worlds. Life signs? Asked Captain Valora, daughter of the former Synthesis Collective diplomat. She had grown in a biotank specifically designed to interface with human technology, a symbol of the new generation that saw cooperation as natural. None that our sensors can detect, Zekthar replied. But energy readings are off the scale. Whatever powers those structures makes our fusion reactors look like candles compared to stars. Marcus Cole, now a graying general but still sharp as ever, pulled up tactical displays. The defense grid is ready. 3,000 vessels in the first wave, another 5,000 in reserve. Every major species contributed at least 100 ships. Even the holdouts who voted against the treaty are here. Sarah nodded, remembering the long years of training, of cultural exchange, of slowly building trust between species that had never worked together before. It hadn't been easy. There had been incidents, conflicts, moments when everything nearly fell apart. But humanity had held the line. Not through force but through example. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's an old standard. The language the Council used 10,000 years ago. Every head turned toward the view screen. The image that appeared made even Sarah's breath catch. A being stood before them, humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin was like polished silver, its eyes contained entire galaxies. When it spoke, the words seemed to echo from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Children of the new cycle, it said, its voice neither male nor female, neither young nor old. We are the architects. We seeded this galaxy with life, shaped worlds, and guided evolution before your ancestors even dreamed of fire. We left to explore beyond, to seed other galaxies, to watch creation unfold across the universe. And now you've returned, Sarah said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. Why? To evaluate, the architect replied. Every 100 million years, we return to see what has grown in our absence. Sometimes we find nothing but dust. Sometimes we find species trapped in cycles of violence, unable to evolve beyond their destructive natures. When we find such civilizations, we prune them, reset the board for another cycle. Horror rippled through the bridge. The architects weren't returning to help. They were returning to judge. And if a civilization passes your evaluation? Sarah asked. Then we gift them knowledge. Technology. Entry into the greater galactic community that exists beyond the edges of your perception. Thousands of galaxies, millions of species, all working together under our guidance. Guidance or control? Marcus interjected. The architect's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those galaxy-filled eyes. There is little difference when one possesses absolute power. Sarah stepped forward, every eye in the bridge on her. Then let me tell you about humanity's philosophy on absolute power. For thousands of years, my species believed that might made right. That the strong should rule the weak. We conquered each other, enslaved each other, nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times over. We know, the architect said. We've been watching. Your species is violent, territorial, aggressive. By all standard metrics, you should have been culled the moment you achieved nuclear fission. But we weren't, Sarah continued, because we learned something that your ancient wisdom apparently never discovered. Power without restraint isn't strength. It's tyranny. We learned to question our own dominance. We learned to build systems that checked our worst impulses. We learned that true civilization isn't about who can conquer who, it's about who chooses not to. The architect tilted its head, genuinely curious for the first time. You speak of choice as if it matters. The strong do what they will. The weak suffer what they must. This is the law of the universe. That's the law of a dead universe, Sarah countered. You created life-shaped worlds, guided evolution, and for what? To return every 100 million years and destroy anything that doesn't meet your standards? That's not guardianship. That's gardening. We're not plants to be pruned. Around the bridge, crew members from 24 species stood straighter. The architect's power was terrifying, absolute. But Sarah's words resonated with something deeper than fear. The species of this galaxy have chosen a different path, Sarah continued. Not because we're perfect, not because we've transcended our violent natures, but because we've decided that cooperation is stronger than domination, that diversity is more valuable than homogeneity, that the chance to choose our own destiny is worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. You would fight us? The architect asked, and for the first time emotion entered its voice. Surprise. We would defend ourselves, Sarah corrected. Just as we did when the Corvan Empire tried to conquer us. Just as we did when the Council tried to destroy us. Not because we seek war, but because we refuse to kneel. The architect was silent for a long moment. Behind it, the 17 massive structures hung in space, each one capable of destroying entire fleets with casual ease. Interesting, it finally said. In 10,000 evaluations across 50 galaxies, no species has ever challenged our authority. Most worship us. Some fear us. None have ever suggested that our way might be wrong. Maybe that's the problem, Marcus said quietly. If everyone's too afraid to tell you the truth, how do you ever grow? The architect's form shimmered, and suddenly the bridge crew could see through it to the billions of minds that made up its consciousness. Individuals from countless species, all linked, all merged into something greater. And in that moment Sarah understood. You're not gods, she whispered. You're a collective. Like the Synthesis Collective, but on an unimaginable scale. You've sacrificed individuality for unity, and you think that's evolution's endpoint. It is efficient, the architect replied. No conflict. No war. No suffering. No choice, Sarah countered. No growth. No chance to be better than what you were designed to be. She gestured to her bridge crew. Look at them. 20 species who hated each other 15 years ago. Who fought wars. Who exploited each other. And now they stand together not because they were forced to merge, but because they chose cooperation. Each one maintaining their identity, their culture, their individuality, but united by common purpose. That unity is fragile, the architect observed. Yes, Sarah agreed. And that fragility is its strength. We have to work at it. We have to choose it every single day. That choice, that effort, that's what makes us truly alive. The architect considered this for what felt like an eternity. The fleet waited, weapons charged but not raised, ready to defend but hoping not to fight. Finally, the being spoke again. You have given us much to consider. A perspective we have not encountered in a billion years of evaluation. We will delay judgment. Return in 1,000 of your years to see if this choice of yours has led to growth or collapse. And if we fail? Sarah asked. Then we will do what must be done. But if you succeed? The architect's form brightened. Perhaps you will teach us something we have forgotten. That power's greatest expression is not in its use, but in its restraint. The 17 structures began to fade, folding back into dimensions beyond human perception. 1,000 years, children of the new cycle. Make them count. And then they were gone. The bridge erupted in chaos, relief, celebration, disbelief. Species that had nearly been erased from existence hugged each other, wept, laughed. They had faced annihilation and survived not through firepower but through words. Through a philosophy that humanity had fought to teach the galaxy. Sarah turned to Marcus and saw tears in the old general's eyes. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. No, Sarah replied, looking out at the fleet of ships, each one carrying crew members from dozens of worlds. We did it. All of us. Together. She activated the fleet-wide broadcast, her face appearing on screens across 3,000 vessels. To all members of the United Galactic Defense Force. Today we faced a test that could have ended all life in our galaxy. We survived not because humanity showed them our weapons, but because the galaxy showed them our growth. We proved that cooperation isn't weakness. That choice isn't chaos. That unity without uniformity is possible. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. 8,000 years ago, humans were alone on one planet, fighting each other over scraps of resources. 70 years ago, we entered a galaxy that saw us as primitives. 15 years ago, we forced that galaxy to accept us as equals. Today, we stood together and convinced beings older than stars themselves that we deserve to exist. We have 1,000 years to prove we were right. 1,000 years to build something better than any civilization has built before. Not perfect, not without conflict, but always choosing growth over stagnation, cooperation over domination, hope over fear. The galaxy underestimated humanity once. We showed them our strength. Now let's show them our wisdom. Let's show the architects that the species of this galaxy can create something that even gods would envy. She closed the broadcast and turned back to her crew. Humans, Corvins, Vren, Balthor, Synthesis members, and a dozen other species, all watching her with expressions that transcended words. Set course for home, Sarah commanded. All of us. Every species. Every world. We've got work to do. As the fleet began its journey back to civilized space, Sarah looked out at the stars one final time. Somewhere in the darkness, the architects watched. Waiting. Judging. Let them watch, Sarah thought. Let them see what happens when you don't underestimate humanity. When you don't underestimate the power of choice, the strength of unity, the resilience of species that refuse to surrender their individuality for the sake of conformity. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way. Now it was time to teach it to the universe. Humanity didn't conquer the stars. We didn't need to. We simply showed them what it meant to be truly alive. Free, diverse, united not by force but by choice. And in doing so, we became something the ancient architects had never imagined possible. Proof that evolution's endpoint isn't perfection or efficiency, but the endless, beautiful struggle to be better than what we were. The last human signal that sparked war across the stars became the first signal of a new era. One where humanity's greatest strength wasn't our weapons or our technology, but our stubborn, defiant, absolutely human refusal to accept that power should define possibility. The galaxy would never underestimate us again.